Yo, what is actually up, everybody? Welcome back to another massive explainer on the channel. Listen, if you are new here and you're all about upgrading your mind and taking control of your life, do yourself a massive favor and hit that subscribe button for the Inner Drive channel right now. Because today the scene katracha. We are diving into something literally everyone is feeling right now, but nobody knows how to actually fix. Chapter 1. The heavy reality of brain fog. I want you to picture this exact scenario and tell me if this is you. You are sitting on the edge of your bed, staring blankly at your smartphone. You've been doom-scrolling for an hour, your thumb is just moving on complete autopilot, and your brain, it literally feels like it's wrapped in a heavy, wet towel. You keep telling yourself, okay, I'll focus tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll give it my absolute best, but when the actual time comes to do the work, there's just this strange, overwhelming dullness. Sound familiar? No cap, you are definitely not alone. Today, we are completely unraveling the brain fog epidemic and getting your mind back.
So moving right along, the absolute first question we have to ask ourselves is brain fog actually real? Or is it just a convenient excuse we all use when the vibes are off and we simply don't want to work? Because society loves to guilt trip us, right? Let me tell you right now, no cap, this isn't just laziness. This isn't just a lack of motivation, and you cannot fix this by just chugging another cup of iced coffee. This is a legitimate biological state that millions of people are dealing with simultaneously. It's a heavy, crushing mental block that absolutely refuses to budge, even if you just slept for 8 hours.
We are talking about a very real, very serious civilizational crisis here. You might find yourself mid-conversation, completely forgetting basic words, or maybe it takes you literally 10 times longer just to start replying to a simple email. It just feels like your baseline cognitive sharpness is completely gone. For the longest time, doctors couldn't give this a proper diagnosis because, honestly, standard MRI scans were looking completely normal. But the functional data? Oh man, it tells a completely different story. We really need to validate your lived experience right here, right now, because it is exactly that, a measurable neurobiological state. In Nepali, we have this absolutely perfect slang for this feeling. It's called batarni. Your mind literally feels twisted, tangled up, and just completely messed up. It's a persistent mental heaviness, a severe dullness. You are not going crazy, bro, and you are not just tired. This batarni feeling is your brain physically struggling to process basic information. The whole internet has collectively agreed to call it brain rot, but whatever name you give it, it is 100% real, and researchers are finally cracking the code on why it happens.
Okay, Chapter 2, the post-COVID cognitive drop. Let's dive straight into the hard science, because this is where it gets crazy. Notice the massive spikes on this chart, showing exactly what happened to our brains post-COVID. This is raw data from the New England Journal of Medicine, based on extensive research from Imperial College London. They actually went in and measured the raw IQ drop in people who recovered from COVID-19. Just look at these numbers, Yar. If you had a standard, normal recovery, you permanently lost an average of 3 IQ points. If you developed long COVID, meaning your symptoms dragged on for over 12 weeks, you lost 6 IQ points. And if things got so bad you had to go to the ICU, a massive, staggering 9 IQ point drop. And wait, if you got reinfected, add another 2 points of damage to that. This isn't just feeling a little slow today. A drop of 6 to 9 IQ points can severely, fundamentally impact your ability to handle complex tasks, hold your focus at work, and just manage your daily life without feeling completely overwhelmed.
Now, what's really staggering about this specific data is the sheer scale of the evidence. This wasn't just some small, random survey of a dozen college students. This study involved over 140,000 participants. 140,000! To put that into perspective, that's enough people to fill a massive sports stadium multiple times over. They put all these people through rigorous, highly specific online cognitive tests designed to measure memory, attention, reasoning, and executive function. The lead researcher on this, Professor Adam Hampshire, made it crystal clear brain fog strongly correlates with objectively measurable cognitive deficits. This absolutely proves that this Bannerand phenomenon is a quantifiable neurobiological problem. For a huge portion of the global population, their literal processing power has been demonstrably downgraded. But guys, here's where the story gets really, really wild. If you thought COVID was the sole villain of this brain fog story, think again. Let's rewind the clock. Chapter 3, the 2016 plot twist. Drop the dramatic plot twist right here. The year is 2016. According to massive data sets analyzed by top-tier researchers at the Yale School of Medicine, this whole cognitive crisis actually began way before the pandemic even existed. They tracked over 4.5 million annual surveys across the United States, and they found a massive, undeniable inflection point. Right around 2016, something fundamentally broke in our collective brains. COVID didn't start the fire, bro. It just poured a massive bucket of gasoline on a civilization that was already burning out. So, what exactly happened in 2016 that messed us all up so badly?
Unpack this data with me because it brilliantly illustrates the true, terrifying scale of the problem. Look at the 18 to 39-year-old demographic, the absolute prime of youth, right? This is us. In 2013, only 5.1% reported having a cognitive disability. By 2023, that number almost doubled to 9.7%. Nearly 1 in 10 young adults is out here literally struggling to think clearly. Older demographics, they didn't see this crazy spike at all, which completely proves this is a civilizational digital crisis, not just a biological virus issue. 2016 was the exact era when hyper-engaging short-form content, intense algorithmic echo chambers, and massive unavoidable smartphone dependency really took over our daily lives. Our brains were completely thrown into an endless digital hyperreality, and it literally started breaking down our cognitive processing power.
So, Chapter 4, the brain's survival algorithm. To understand exactly why these digital algorithms break our brains, we have to look at our own built-in biological algorithm. Evolutionary biology tells us that our brain is a biological circuit with very strict, hard limits. Think about this. It only weighs about 2% of your total body mass, but it is super greedy. It hogs 20% of your body's energy. Because it's so energy hungry, it operates on a strict survival priority hierarchy. Step 1 is defense. If there's any threat, literally all energy goes to keeping you alive. Step 2 is stability, saving energy, chilling out, and recovering. Step 3 is expansion. This is the magic zone where complex thinking, creativity, and deep, locked-in focus happen. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is your brain always prioritizes surviving over thriving. When you are constantly stressed by hundreds of notifications, endless doom scrolling, and the pressure of modern life, your brain gets locked in steps 1 and 2. It literally cuts the power cord to step 3, the expansion phase, leaving you stuck in that foggy, dull, completely drained state.
Let's move to Chapter 5, the tragedy of Harry Farr. I want to use a crazy historical metaphor to show you just how deep and uncontrollable this biological response actually is. The year is 1916, right in the middle of World War I. Meet Private Harry Farr, a British soldier fighting in the absolutely brutal, nightmare conditions of the trenches. Harry was a legitimately good soldier, but the sheer constant terror and the relentless deafening noise of artillery fire completely broke his nervous system. He started physically shaking, he couldn't even hold a pen to write a letter, and eventually his legs just wouldn't work. He couldn't make himself go back to the front line. His commanders coldly called it cowardice, and tragically, heartbreakingly, he was executed by a firing squad. But the army chaplain who was standing with him at the very end wrote a letter to his widow saying, "A finer soldier never lived." Harry wasn't a coward, guys. He was a tragic victim of shell shock. His brain had literally taken over his physical body to protect him from the horror.
Let's break down the actual literal neuroscience of what happened to Harry Farr, because it is mind-blowing. When the human brain faces inescapable, overwhelming terror, it doesn't just trigger the standard fight or flight mode you always hear about. It triggers an ultimate freeze response. This is controlled by a tiny, ancient region deep in the brain called the VLPAG, or the ventrolateral periaqueductal gray. Harry's amygdala detected extreme, continuous, life-ending threat from the artillery fire, and it smashed the panic button, activating the VLPAG. This response literally jams the body's entire system. It paralyzed him with a biological freeze to minimize his pain and protect his core vital functions. He physically could not move even if he actively wanted to. It took 90 whole years, but in 2006, the UK government finally granted Harry and 305 other soldiers a posthumous pardon. They finally recognized that these men were victims of severe neurobiological trauma, not cowards making a choice.
Chapter 6, the modern slow-motion freeze. Now, I want you to bring that intense history lesson right back to today. Obviously, a buzzing smartphone notification isn't an exploding artillery shell. But our modern digital lifestyle, the endless work deadlines, the massive toxic comparison culture on social media, the 24/7 negative news cycle, it literally acts like a psychological predator. We are living our everyday lives in a constant, unbroken state of low-level threat and massive overstimulation. And because we can't physically fight an email or run away from a Slack message, our brains default into a slow-motion freeze. We become totally numb, paralyzed on the couch, and deeply foggy. This condition is so insanely widespread now that Oxford University Press officially named brain rot as their 2024 word of the year. We are all basically walking around in a low-grade, modern version of shell shock, completely jammed up by our own neurobiology.
And this brilliantly illustrates the scientific concept of allostatic overload. Listen, when you spend 6 to 8 hours a day just staring blankly at a glowing screen, your brain's delicate reward systems become completely and utterly exhausted. You are constantly feeding your brain cheap, effortless dopamine hits without doing any real meaningful work. Eventually, the brain does the math. It realizes that the effort-to-reward ratio is totally broken, and it just says, nope, I'm shutting the whole system down to save energy. That intense cognitive wear and tear from chronic stress is what scientists call allostatic overload. Your brain literally limits the amount of energy available for analytical thinking, complex problem solving, and even basic emotional regulation. You stop being an active participant in life and become a completely passive data consumer, entirely checked out of reality. Chapter 7, the Zeigarnik effect. Okay, so what else is actively draining our energy reserves? Enter the Zeigarnik effect. This is a fascinating psychological principle that states your brain naturally remembers unfinished tasks 90% better than tasks you've actually completed. Think about it for a second. When you finally finish a big project, you forget about it instantly, right? It's gone. But that one email you left unread, that text message you really need to reply to, that side project you are deeply procrastinating on, they become these massive open loops in your brain. And here's the crazy part. Modern digital life is essentially a giant, efficient factory designed for creating thousands of these stressful open loops every single day.
Let's use a computer analogy here, because honestly, it fits the situation perfectly. I want you to imagine that your brain's executive bandwidth, your ability to focus and make decisions, is your computer's RAM. Every single open loop you have, every unread DM, every unmade decision, every bill you haven't paid, is literally like opening a brand new tab in your web browser. Now, what happens to your laptop when you have 200 tabs open in Chrome all at once? The whole computer completely freezes up, the internal fans start spinning like a jet engine, everything gets incredibly, painfully slow, and eventually the whole system just crashes. That is exactly, precisely what unfinished tasks do to your brain. They are constantly running in the background of your subconscious, sucking up your executive bandwidth, completely draining your precious cognitive resources, and directly causing that thick, heavy, but turned brain fog we talked about.
So, Chapter 8, the glymphatic brainwash. How do we actually fix this? How do we clear out the fog and get our minds back? Let's shift gears completely to the neurosolutions. One of the absolute most groundbreaking medical discoveries in recent years involves something called the glymphatic system. Now, up until very recently, scientists had only ever proven that this system existed in mice, but a massive, revolutionary 2024 study from OHSU finally successfully imaged this exact system functioning in living, breathing humans. They used insanely high-tech MRI scans with special contrast agents on actual neurosurgery patients and definitively proved that our brain literally has its own built-in internal sewage system. This macroscopic waste clearance network actively, physically flushes out all the nasty metabolic toxins that naturally build up while we think, stress, and function during our waking hours.
So here is exactly, step by step, how this glymphatic flush actually works. It relies almost entirely on you getting high-quality deep sleep. When you hit that deep sleep phase, your literal brain cells actually shrink in size. This physical shrinking allows your cerebral spinal fluid to rush in like a massive wave and wash away highly toxic proteins, specifically things called amyloid and tau proteins. Deep sleep literally equals a maximum brain flush. But if you are chronically sleep deprived, meaning you're getting less than 5 or 6 hours a night, those toxins don't get washed away. They accumulate. They literally pile up like garbage inside your brain, directly causing that heavy, miserable battery feeling the very next day. And what makes it worse? Staring at your bright phone screens right before bed massively suppresses your melatonin, completely ruining your deep sleep architecture. This means your brain literally never gets a signal to run its crucial nightly cleaning cycle.
Chapter 9, the chemical solutions and BDNF. Beyond fixing your sleep, we absolutely have to talk about the miracle brain protein BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Guys, this stuff is literally like high-grade premium fertilizer for your neurons. It actively helps repair damaged brain cells and actually stimulates the growth of brand new ones. And the absolute best part about this? You do not need an expensive prescription or some crazy supplement stack to get it. You can trigger massive, natural releases of BDNF in your own brain with just 20 short minutes of aerobic movement. A brisk walk outside, a quick run, some cycling, getting your heart rate up actively flushes out the nasty stress hormone cortisol and triggers rapid neurogenesis right in your hippocampus. You are literally growing new brain pathways just by moving your physical body, slicing right through that heavy fog.
Now, I want to be totally real with you. For severe clinical cases, especially if we are talking about long COVID patients, basic lifestyle changes might need a little extra medical help, and that is totally okay.
The Yale School of Medicine has been pioneering an incredible, highly effective clinical treatment protocol that combines an ADHD medication called guanafacin with a powerful antioxidant called NAC. Here's how it works. Guanafacin actively targets your prefrontal cortex, physically strengthening your neural connections and throwing up a shield against stress, while the NAC acts as a heavy hitter fighting off deep neuroinflammation. In their clinical studies, this specific combo has successfully cleared debilitating brain fog for patients who literally felt like their lives were over. So the absolutely crucial point I want to make here is, there is very real, proven medical hope and pharmacological support available alongside building a structured, healthy lifestyle.
Chapter 10. Reclaiming your cognitive focus. Let's bring this whole massive explainer together. How do you actually reclaim your focus and completely beat the brain rot starting today? Step 1. Close those open loops, Yar. Build a highly structured daily routine. Start using a physical diary or a notes app as your second brain to write everything down and permanently close out those mental browser tabs to free up your cognitive RAM. Step 2. Trigger that BDNF with daily, consistent aerobic movement. Just 20 minutes a day to flush out the toxic cortisol and literally grow new neurons. Step 3. Fiercely prioritize your deep sleep to guarantee that essential nightly glymphatic wash. Cut out the bright screens at least 45 minutes before bed so your brain's internal sewage system can actually clear out the day's toxic buildup. Taking aggressive control of your daily routines dramatically reduces your stress hormones and physically pulls you out of that debilitating slow-motion freeze. I want to leave you all with this final, truly provocative thought to chew on as we wrap up. The next time you sit down to do deep work, or the next time you feel that heavy, familiar fog rolling into your mind, I want you to stop and ask yourself a serious question. Are you just trying to manage your time on a calendar? Or do you fundamentally need to start managing your brain's actual survival algorithm? Stop fighting your biology, bro, and start actively working with it. Give your primal brain the stability and safety it deeply craves, and I promise you, it will give you the massive expansion and razor-sharp focus you need to crush your goals. If this explainer completely opened your eyes today and gave you some real value, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and follow the Inner Drive channel for more intense deep dives into optimizing your mind and your life. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer and keep pushing that inner drive. Catch you in the next one.